Welcome back to Magoo's Reviews.
All right, y'all. So pretty much Suge Knight has come out and said that the Death Row chain that Drake bought, the Tupac chain, is definitely a fake. He spoke with the Art of Dialogue recently. You know, Reggie Wright, he spoke about the whole situation as well. You know, he's part of Death Row security back in the day. But now this is coming from Suge Knight, man. He actually did the interview last night. He did say that the chain is absolutely fake. Goes on to say, it says, Death Row co-founder Suge Knight claims that Drake's Tupac chain is not real. During a recent interview with Art of Dialogue from his prison cell, Knight claimed the Death Row Records chain formerly belongs to Tupac is fraudulent. Now, this is Suge Knight's words. Says, well, I'm quite sure it's not true, said Knight. When I came up with the idea to make the Death Row chain, one, it had never been done before. Two, it was like wearing it was like having your flag, your rag. You can't tuck it. It means something. According to Knight, he was the only one authorized to give out authentic chains to represent the record label. He went on to say that Snoop Dogg was the first one to receive the chain, but exchanged it for a custom dog paw, believing a Death Row chain will cause too much controversy. Death Row, if you guys remember back in the day, Death Row was on top. They were on top. Of course, Bad Boy was there, but Death Row, man, at the end of the day, people forget how big Snoop Dogg was. You know what I'm saying? He still is one of the most popular rappers in the world, but in the 90s, he definitely was on top. You know what I'm saying? Even Big said, I want to sell records like Snoop. Snoop Dogg was up there, bro. You know what I'm saying? This was before Tupac joined Death Row. And of course, you had Dr. Dre. You know what I'm saying? Then you had the Dog Pound. Then Tupac comes along. You know what I'm saying? Lady of Rage. Like, Death Row was a label. It was a label. And Suge Knight was right there too. That face of that label, man, that was a huge conglomerate, one of the biggest and greatest, record labels ever, you know what I'm saying, in hip hop of all time. Goes on to say, Knight also said Dr. Dre and a few others had chains, but others did not. None of the B's on Death Row had Death Row chains. This is Suge's words. The Dog Pound, Corrupt and Daz Dillinger didn't even have Death Row chains, Knight said. After Tupac's release from jail in 1995, Knight claimed that he would give him his own Death Row chain, but he turned down the offer. He's like, you my big bro, let me wear yours. Now, this is Tupac's words that he's saying to Suge. That's more important. I don't want the first one. I want the one you got. Now, I recall that Tupac wore his diamond covered chain immediately upon his release, and no one else had that piece. That's not Tupac's chain. It's not a Death Row chain. Goes on to say, whoever sold you that chain, Drake, you need to go beat his mother, beat his A. Crazy, Knight said. Pretty much, Suge Knight said, hey, look, the chain that Tupac wore was my chain. There was no engravings on the back of it. There was no written, all eyes on you, that the chain that Drake showed. He's like, that's not the real Death Row chain. The chain that Tupac wore was the chain I gave him. That was my chain. He's like, that's not the one. So the thing that, Drake is out there, showing off was that, hey, pretty much just the Death Row chain. And like I said before in my other video, the reason Drake did that was because Kendrick and the Clips went on stage and they killed it. That was definitely a shot at Kendrick because he did put a little post at that antagonized. I think it was like Meltdown Season, something crazy like that. And the same thing, he insinuated with Pharrell in the Family Matters video, right? But at the same time, I'm like, bro, you got swindled. You got swindled, man. If Suge Knight's coming out here, Reggie Wright's coming out here, and Whack 100, he was on, and he brought Reggie Wright on DJ Academics, and they were talking Academics sitting there looking crazy like, oh, shoot, y'all right. Like, bro, Dre got swindled. And then he went on the internet thinking he got one up. and then you got people from back in like Suge Knight, you know what I'm saying? Nah, bro, that wasn't it. The real chain, that was mine. The one you got, that was definitely a fake. So, man, whoever that seller was, I think Drake paid $500,000 for that chain. That's crazy, bro. That's absolutely crazy. So, at the end of the day, this is probably gonna be my last video of it. But the reason I wanted to do it because Suge Knight actually came out and said something. Suge he has done interviews from prison, but for this exact topic, I was like, oh yeah, I want to hear from Suge and do a video on it. But anyway, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Hope everybody has a blessed day, and I'll see y'all soon. Have a good one.